Another 10-win season for James Franklin and Penn State isn't going to be good enough. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. So Penn State, another 10-2 year coming up, maybe. Plus the Buckeyes are turning some heads. You don't miss this. This is interesting. This got my attention. And we'll have our pigskin picks. It's Friday. We're going to look at Big Ten non-quarterback Heisman hopefuls. But first, let's get into Penn State a little bit here and have some fun. Look. James Franklin has been at Penn State for a decade. He's been pretty successful. Certainly, if Nittany Lion fans traveled back in time and remember the end of the Joe Paterno era with the Jerry Sandusky scandal and the absolute mess that ensued, and if you told those same fans that a coach would come along and eventually he would put Penn State into a position where they're winning 10 games a year and being a top 10 program in the country every year, those fans would be ecstatic. That's exactly what James Franklin has done. And suddenly, his body of work isn't good enough for some people. If you listen to the tea leaves out there, good enough. The definition of that so far has been losing to Michigan and Ohio State every year, but literally beating everybody else on the schedule. There you get your 10-2. Here's a glaring stat. James Franklin and Penn State are 1-14 versus Michigan and Ohio State when the Wolverines and the Buckeyes are ranked in the top 10. Just not beating them, just not getting over the top, not getting over the hump. Penn State wants to win Big Ten championships and win playoff games and win a national championship. But Michigan, Ohio State, they always seem to be in the way. One thing that should help is the expanded college football format here this year, where we jump from 4 teams to 12 teams. I've often said on this podcast, and you have agreed with me, that Penn State will probably benefit more than any other team or school in the country with the expanded playoffs. They'll make the field regularly from now on. In fact, if you go over the 10-year tenure of James Franklin, and we had 12 teams making the playoffs each and every year while he's been at Penn State over the past decade, Penn State is the school out of all the schools on the outside of the playoffs looking in that would have joined the playoff field more than any other program in the country. You talk about knocking on the door and not getting in. That's Penn State. They are right there. Penn State lost 8 players to the NFL draft this past season going into this season, but that does not mean they are void of talent. They're going to be good again this year. They got a new offensive coordinator in Andy Kotelnicki, and he's going to give the Nittany Lions a new look offense with a lot of formations and a lot of motion. Going to keep defenses on their toes. It's going to look a lot different from what Penn State fans are used to. Maybe this will open things up downfield a little bit for quarterback Drew Aller, who is due to step his game up a notch here this season. But here's an amazing stat for Aller. Kind of like when we looked at James Franklin and Penn State's record against Michigan, Ohio State. In Penn State's 10 wins last year, Aller completed 64% of his passes. He threw 20 touchdowns and just 1 interception. That's pretty good. But in the 3 big games, Ohio State, Michigan, and in the bowl game against Ole Miss, he only completed 51% of his passes and only had 5 touchdowns. And 3 of those 5 were when the game was out of reach in garbage time. He had 1 pick and 7 sacks. Different guy. Got to step up in those games. He does. Franklin does. Penn State does. Now, whether Aller will be able to raise his passing game or not, he still has the luxury of 2 awesome running backs. Again, for the third straight year. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton will be in the backfield together, alternating carries and whatnot for Penn State. They combined for 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns last year. They're good at that position. All right. Nothing to worry about. Now they're going to be behind an offensive line that lost 3 players to the NFL, including Big Ten lineman of the year, Olu Fashanu. But the next batch of guys, they're pretty good. They were highly recruited. And, with the exception of Sal Wormley, one of their guards, they're just guys that need experience. Now, my number 1, number 2, and number 3 concern is Penn State's lack of deep threat at wide receiver. This is well documented here on this podcast at Locked On Big Ten. The receiver room wasn't great, and I don't think it got better here in this offseason. And to make matters worse, Keandre Lambert-Smith transferred to Auburn. Now, Ohio State's Julian Fleming is coming in, but he wasn't the best of the bunch over there at Ohio State. He's good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was a 5-star back in the day, and he's coming back home to Pennsylvania. So, I mean, he's good. I don't want to undersell him. But I don't think he's a game breaker, a game changer at this point. Now, let's talk about the defense for Penn State, because the Nittany Lion defense was elite last year. Absolutely elite. Top 3 in the country. Some metrics had him at number 1. Defensive coordinator Manny Diaz left for the Duke job, but former Indiana head coach Tom Allen comes in as the coordinator this year. Now, Kalen King, Johnny Dixon, Daquan Hardy, all gone to the NFL. Cam Miller moves to the number 1 corner spot. You got a pair of top-rated guys that transferred in from the SEC that'll battle for the other spot, maybe the nickel spot. You got Jalen Kimber. He transferred in from Florida. Georgia's A.J. Harris. He was one of the most highly sought transfer corners in the country, and Penn State landed him. So that's good. Up front, Chop Robinson's gone. He's now with the Miami Dolphins. First-round pick. Adisa Isaac went in the 3rd round, so you lose them. But at defensive end, you still have Abdul Carter. He's going to fill one of those spots. He's going to move into that position, a little bit of a position change. 5-star Danny Dennis Sutton. He placed on the All Big Ten 3rd team last year, and they get their top 4 defensive tackles. They're returning right up the middle. So they're going to be able to rotate guys in and plug things up in the middle. Devon Ellis is back as well. So when you add it all up and look at it, I mean, let's take a quick look at their schedule. Right away, they should be able to get off to a quick start. They got West Virginia, Bowling Green, a bye, and then Kent State. They should be 3-0. Although that West Virginia game, I have respect for West Virginia in week 1. It's on the road. You got Illinois and UCLA. Penn State should be 5-0. They got a tough game at USC and then a bye. Then at Wisconsin. Then they got Ohio State. Ohio State always trips them up. Maybe 6-2, 7-1 at this point. They're 6-2. You got Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland to close it out. What does it look like? Man, it looks like another 10-2 season, doesn't it? Maybe they get the USC game. You go 11-1. Now you're talking Big Ten championship game. Maybe, right? That's where we're at. Very good again, but can they be excellent? That is the $1 million question for Penn State this year, James Franklin and company. So the 10-win season, and what they do after that could determine how happy fans are in Happy Valley. Look, 10-2, I'll get you into the playoffs. Might not get you into the Big Ten championship game, but it'll get you into the playoffs. 11-1, get you in the Big Ten championship and the playoffs. So, Nittany Lion fans, again, as I said before, I said again, I said it today, Penn State benefits more than any other team in the country with the expanded 12-team playoff from 4 to 12. Penn State's going to the playoffs this year. All right, we'll see how far they go. We'll see if everybody calms down a little bit, gets excited behind James Franklin, and see what they can do this year. All right. Love your comments. I always do. You can hit us up on Twitter or X at TalkBig10 number 10. Comments on YouTube. Go at it. Don't forget our website. You see, if you're on video, you can see on the bottom crawl there, TalkBig10 number 10.com. Go there for all of our podcasts for Locked On Big Ten. Check out all the other teams we talk about, or this will also go in the Penn State section if you just want to go there and see everything we've featured for Penn State. And Penn State fans, while you're there, get your hats, t-shirts, and pennants and all your merchandise for the upcoming 2024 season right there at talkbig10.com. It's right there. Easy to do. So in the meantime, also going to ask you to subscribe. If you're new, we started this channel. We took over this channel last summer with 1,200 subscribers. We are this close to 10,000. The goal is to get to 10,000 before this season. We're going to do it with your help. Subscribe, click it. Doesn't cost anything. No private information, nothing. And then you and I are on the Big Ten loop together each and every day. Subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten, wherever you get your podcasts. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, some interesting moves at Ohio State. This is going to be fun. And somebody is picking Iowa to maybe make it into the Big Ten championship game. I'll let you know who that is. All that's coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Well, with all these sports going on, we got baseball season throughout the summer, Big Ten football right around the corner. And I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel.com is where you need to go. And sports are great as they are. You add FanDuel to the mix, adds that adrenaline rush. It's exciting. FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with boosts or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So I got some action here for you on a Friday night. Let's take a look at this. We got some football. You interested in preseason football? That's hard to pick if you're doing wagers. I got the Dolphins at plus 2.5 over the Falcons. I've got the Eagles and Ravens hitting the under 34.5. A lot of backup players, a lot of low numbers for the over-under. Back to baseball. Braves over the Rockies, and take the over in that one as well. And I like the over in the Guardians versus the Twins tonight on Friday night. Once again, it's FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day, and tell people about us. Tell them we're out here, word of mouth. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. And when you're done with us, for your second listen, enjoy Locked On College Football. They have a podcast every day with Spencer McLaughlin, talk about game matchups, things going on outside the football fields with NIL and transfer portals and all that good stuff on Locked On College Football. All right. Told you about Ohio State. Here's the deal. Ohio State, we talk a lot about coaches. We talk a lot about quarterbacks. We talk about playoffs and winning games, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, one of the most significant transfers they got this season was Alabama free safety Caleb Downs, right? We talked about him too. This could be a great addition. There's a bright future in the secondary and at running back. What? Running back? Yeah, that's right. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. You know, he's that mad scientist when it comes to designing an offense. He's got some plans. You might be saying, wait a minute. Ohio State is stacked at running back. What do they need to be doing, putting their safety at running back? They got Travion Henderson back this year. They got Ole Miss transfer and all SEC running back, Quinshon Judkins. Now, after that, though, it looks a little thin. TC Caffey, he just got injured, suffered a season-ending injury in July. And Caleb Downs was a pretty good running back in high school. He was averaging almost 7 yards a carry back in the day. Now, he wouldn't give up his defensive position. We're not saying they're moving him from defensive back to running back. There is some talk that there might be some packages where he might see some plays, maybe, a player, and maybe be a two-way player. Heck, a three-way player on special teams. He's just one of those guys. He's one of those tremendous athletes who can just do anything. You can keep him on the field the whole time. And that's according to Chip Kelly. This is just a really unique guy. Now, Caleb Downs isn't the only player making some news at Ohio State. We've talked a little bit lately about true freshman wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. This kid, maybe the best freshman in the country at any position. He continues to make his presence felt, and that's everywhere because not only has he been great on the field so far, he's dominating off the field in the weight room, apparently. And from what I hear, he is the first true freshman at Ohio State to win the Iron Buckeye. It's an award they give out for a guy that just gets after it and everything. The weight room, the whole deal. He's come in there and the freshman's coming in there showing people how it's done, huh? So anyway, he's getting his body ready for the season, and the coaches and got all their attention, and his teammates are noticing. This kid looks like he's going to be the real deal. He's going to play as a true freshman. Earlier this week, we were talking about when we were previewing the Oregon Ducks. I think it was on Monday's podcast. Go back and look at it at talkbig10.com, our website. All of our podcasts are right there. Go back to Monday. It's the Oregon Ducks. You know, Dan Lanning, we talked about how he and his family, they love it at Eugene. And we mentioned on Monday how he did not even entertain taking a phone call from Alabama when Nick Saban retired. He just reiterated that more recently with Paul Feinbaum. It says this week, it says leaving Oregon was never part of the equation. Of course, for Washington, Kalen DeBoer, he was tempted by Tuscaloosa and he went. So, and there must be something about Oregon that's pretty special because even quarterback Dylan Gabriel was talking. He was on the interview with SiriusXM. And he said that, you make decisions throughout life. Some are hard, whatever. He says transferring to Oregon was the easiest decision of his life. Tell you, they got it going. There's something special going on out there. I've only been to Oregon once, up to Portland. I go check out. I got to see a game at Autzen Stadium. That's what I've got to do that. All right, ESPN's Reese Davis. He must have been watching Locked On Big Ten a lot because he gave a lot of love to Iowa, as we have too. But he even picked them to be a sleeper team in the Big Ten that could actually thread the needle and end up in the Big Ten championship game. What do you think about that? Even though they made it to the Big Ten championship game last year, right? A respectable 10-win season. Well, let's say they arrived through the lesser West Division. Divisions are gone this year, and so it's just the teams out of 18 teams. It's the top two teams. They're just going to go play in the Big Ten championship game. Front runners are Ohio State and Oregon, no question about that. But if you look at Iowa's schedule, as we have, they're going to put a big win total up there. Right, Iowa fans? Yeah. They're going to be in the mix if they get that big win total. I mean, if there's a hiccup or two you're not expecting, then that's all out the window. But if they do what they can, do what they should, just like we suggested here, when we broke down their schedule, or it's more so who's not on their schedule this year. Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, not on the schedule. So they got a tough game against Ohio State, right? And people like Reese Davis seem to think that the rest of their games are very winnable, potential wins. And if they do that, they're 11-1. And if you're 11-1, you're probably going to the Big Ten championship game. So yeah, they can be in the Big Ten title game. There are some respectable opponents here. Like I said, they do have to run the table on everybody else. I mean, they've got Washington, they've got Wisconsin. I think their toughest game on the schedule outside of Ohio State is the finale against Nebraska. I expect big things from Nebraska. In fact, if you've watched this podcast every day, if you're an everydayer out there, we've been big on Nebraska and Rutgers and Iowa. Those are like the second tier teams that are up there grabbing, trying to get there. Going to be a lot of great teams in the Big Ten this year. But anyway, they win those games. They'll have a monster record. And I'll take a moment to talk about Indiana football coach Curt Cignetti. He does things a little differently. He's a bit of a different kind of guy there at Bloomington. His first year, getting ready to start his first year. Most coaches, they got a visible clock counting down practice. Maybe they do 15-minute increments or whatever they do to do a drill and move on to the next thing. Got to keep things moving. They only have so much time with these kids. Cignetti keeps time, though, by the old-fashioned way, looking at his watch. That's it. It's old school, but he says it's the way he's always done it. He says he just blows the whistle when it's time and they move on to the next drill, and it keeps kids from always looking at the clock and just concentrating on what they're doing right now. And he thinks things run a lot smoother that way. So to each his own. We'll see if we have some improvement going on this year in Bloomington with the Indiana Hoosiers. All right. Fridays, we like to do pigskin picks. In 3 weeks, we're going to be doing this for real with actual games, point spreads, point totals. Can't wait. We're going to be helped out by our friends at FanDuel, right? So today, I have pulled the Heisman odds as of today. Got the odds from FanDuel, by the way, of non-quarterbacks. We always talk about quarterbacks. Like the first 10 players are like odds for quarterbacks. We're going to look at the non-quarterbacks and see who has a legitimate shot at winning a Heisman. So all that is coming up in 1 minute right here. All Big Ten guys, right? All that's next here on Locked On Big Ten. GameTime. GameTime can help you go to the game. GameTime is an app you put on your phone. You buy tickets to anything, not just sporting events, comedy shows in your neighborhood, local theater. It's all right there. But especially with sporting events. In fact, they're an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. You want to go to baseball games, they've got great deals there. It's super easy to do. Frankly, the closer you get to first pitch, the better the deal is sometimes. So check that out. They've got a lot of last-minute deals, by the way. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. You could save even more with an exclusive in-app deal on select seats ahead of a game or an event. You take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets or Big Ten football games with GameTime. Just download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and use the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, here we go. We're going to take a look at it's our Picks and Picks segment. If you're new to this, we always do a feature in our last segment. Mondays, top 10 observations for the weekend. Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we do some sort of power rankings. Thursday, we look ahead to the Big Ten Network schedule of Big Ten Classics and live programming. And Friday, we do Pigskin Picks or some sort of pick'em thing, a basketball season. And in the offseason, we come up with some creative props. So pulled some ads from FanDuel, and these are non-quarterbacks. Big Ten non-quarterbacks, their odds for winning a Heisman here this year. I'm going to put it full screen, and that way, if you're on audio, I will try and give you in detail what we have here. First, before I get into our Big Ten, all right, nationally, guys like Travis Hunter, wide receiver at and a corner at Colorado, he's plus 6,500. Trevor Etienne, running back at Georgia, plus 10,000. But I don't know. He's probably going to split votes with Carson Beck, their quarterback. You got Luther Burden, the third. Watch out for this guy. There's the wide receiver out of Missouri at plus 10,000. He'll be a top 10 NFL pick. Had 86 catches last year, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, only 4 drops in 120 passes, like a 3% rate, and 340 yards after contact. Love the yak stats for wide receiver. Also, CJ Baxter was on this list, the running back at Texas at plus 12,000, but he's out for the season. He just got hurt this year. That is so bad for him at Texas. Ollie Gordon, running back at Oklahoma State, plus 12,000. This guy had 1,732 yards from scrimmage last year. Wasn't even a starter at the beginning of the year. 21 touchdowns in 2023. Not bad. All right, so let's take a look at our list as we work it down. As you see on the top here, Donovan Edwards, running back out of Michigan at plus 10,000. You know that Sharon Moore likes to run. You know that Blake Corum is gone. There's some value here at plus 10,000 if you want to sprinkle a little something on that. Everybody remembers his 41 and 46-yard touchdown versus Washington in the national championship. Then we got Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ohio State, the transfer from Ole Miss, all SEC. He's a good one at plus 10,000. But so is his teammate here, Trevion Henderson, the other running back at plus 12,000. They're going to split carries. They may water themselves down. They may split votes in the Heisman. And we're not done at Ohio State because this is how loaded Ohio State is. And by the way, also splitting votes at Ohio State, maybe Caleb Downs. We were just talking about their safety that maybe also be playing running back and returning kicks. He may get a lot of attention if he has success at all three positions. But they also got Emeka Egbuka, who's wanting to step up into the space left by Marvin Harrison Jr. He'll get some attention. He's at plus 12,000 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So all these Buckeyes, I don't know, man. They may. There's only one football. They may split some votes, especially upper Midwest votes to the Heisman. You know how that works. Might be tough for a Buckeye to win a Heisman this year. And also, and don't forget, Jeremiah Smith is going to get some attention. So, like if you're a receiver and you want to win, you got to at least put up numbers like Devontae Smith did at Alabama a few years ago. Speaking of wide receiver, Evan Stewart out of Oregon at plus 12,000 as well. So I know quarterbacks get all the attention when it comes to the Heisman and the glory. And the Heisman Award seems to be a quarterback award these days. But nevertheless, here's a look at some of the other guys. Let me know what you think. Many ways for you to reach out to me, of course. And that is at Twitter, at X, at TalkBig10, 10. Comments on YouTube. And of course, our website, you see the scroll on the bottom if you're on video here, talkbig10, 10.com, talkbig10.com, where you can go and you can find all of our podcasts. After this one, invite you to watch another one. We did a lot of the West Coast teams this week, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, before we kind of focused on Penn State today. That's what our week looked like this week. Anyway, check that out. Buy some merchandise for your favorite schools. Get your team hats and shirts and pennants and everything right there. TalkBig10.com next to our podcast. Very easy for you. Be sure to subscribe before you go if you don't mind. It's free. No other information is required. No personal information. Just click a little button and that's it. And then you and I are in the Big Ten loop together as we are here every single day. And since we are here every day, tell your friends about us, your friends, your family member, who may be a Big Ten alum. Let them know we're out here. Word of mouth. We're making a push to 10,000 subscribers before the start of the football season. So subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Lockdown Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And then when you're done, there's more. Don't forget, Locked On College Football has its own podcast as well, with Spencer hosting all that. Check it out. Talks about everything, the games coming up, things off the field, the business side, expansion, all that stuff right there. Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Well, that'll do it. I hope you have an awesome weekend. I hope you go back and watch other Locked On Big Ten podcasts over the weekend, kind of get caught up a little bit, and we'll be back at it Monday. We're counting it down. Just a few more weeks left till we're playing football games and talking about those. I'm doing our live Saturday podcast as well that we like to do in addition to Monday through Friday. It's fantastic. It's all right around the corner. Thanks for joining us. Can't wait till we meet again next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.